Hi, I'm Donna Davis, along with Richard Cole, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products, and we are here for another 30-minute show where you can ask all of your birding questions of this amazing wild bird
Wow.
expert. So what a great opportunity. Please comment and ask your questions in the comments, and feel free to write in wherever you're watching from, like whatever city you're in and that kind of thing. We'd love to know more about you. And so a few of the things we're going to talk about today, going to talk about hummers. People are
Yes.
still asking questions about
Yes.
hummers.
A lot of people's very favorite bird anyhow. So
Oh yeah, they're so pretty. And then we're also going to talk about bluebirds and nesting boxes. We've had a few questions like that. And then we're going to talk about some holiday gift ideas.
the C word.
I know,
We
can you
won't-
believe Christmas is coming
Wow.
up so soon?
Yeah.
And so if you know someone who is a birder, we have some great ideas for those people. And then also if you know someone who you think might enjoy becoming a birder, then we've got some great holiday gift ideas for that as well. So let's go to the hummers. And yeah, you have a question. It's coming in from Annie G. Feel free to ask your questions as well. She says, I live in California and hummers are around all year long, and I started feeding them. But I am wondering, since it is starting to get very cold here, 50s, 60s at night, I wanted to know if they get cold and if it's okay for them.
Okay, first of all, let me address very cold, 50 to 60 degrees. Maybe to the people in California, especially Southern California, that may be chilly. It's not that cold.
Hummers
Now-
can take it.
Oh, yeah. The hummingbirds, we think of them as delicate and fragile. That's really not the case. If you're familiar with hummingbirds in your area, and Anna's is pretty much a year-round residence along coastal California and inland a little bit. There's another hummingbird. There's 5 or 6 hummingbirds that come through or are resident in the California area. Rufus is a very abundant hummingbird. It just spends the summers in the breeding season mostly north of California, all the way up to Alaska. So when these guys are coming in for the breeding season, there's snow on the ground. Can they handle the cold? Yes. Can Annas handle the cold? Yeah, because it's just not going to get that cold out there. Even if it's down to freezing, they'll be just fine. And hummingbirds have a unique ability to handle cold that a lot of other birds do not have. So you think of them as weak and delicate, they have mechanisms to cope. Hummingbirds have the ability to go into what is called a torpor. It's almost like a bear hibernating, but it's a short-term hibernation. They shut their body down, drops the metabolism down, they conserve their energy, they conserve their heat, and they come back out of it when it's warmer. So they can go into this state to preserve their energy. So they have mechanisms to handle really cold weather. And below freezing is no problem at all for hummingbirds. We see that in Georgia. It'll be below freezing. Hummingbirds are out there. And they can also find food because things like gnats and all are still out there, even in freezing weather. In fact, if you look at some of the nature pictures you see from Alaska or in the tundra and the frozen Arctic, and the guys are swatting flies and bugs away from their face all the time, and it's 20 degrees outside or less. This happens around your neighborhoods too. Even when it's very cold, there's still some gnats in the warm areas behind, around your bushes are, around your houses, and out in the air. And when it warms up a little bit, there's more insects. So they find food, they'll survive. So no problem there.
And you're right. We do tend to think they are just because they're so little, we're like, oh, they're so delicate, but they are one of the most amazing creatures that there are.
They're tough, they're hardy, and they're aggressive.
I know, they are.
Watch them fight. They're not delicate.
And they fly all the way over the entire Gulf of Mexico.
Yes, and
So
the ones that
there's-
come up the East Coast, a lot of them do cross the Gulf of Mexico nonstop. And it may be a 23-hour flight without stopping. A lot of the others just come all the way up from Central America, all the way up through Mexico, all the way up to the United States, all the way up the West Coast, all the way up to Alaska. That's a long migration. They can do it.
And it's amazing. We don't like a 24-hour flight when we have to
Right.
get on a plane and we get served drinks and food, but these hummers can do it, and they are amazing little creatures, and I absolutely love them. Be sure to ask us your hummingbird questions. Richard is quite an expert, so you have, he's here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so you can ask your questions anytime, and if you want to share this out on your personal page, and that way more of your friends can ask their birding questions. So we also have a question from Megan Hundley. She says, I live in Chesapeake, Virginia, and have a hummer that seems to be sticking around longer than her brothers and sisters. I'm leaving nectar out as long as she is here. Is there any type of protein source I can put out for her? I always have suet out in the winter. Will she go for that? Thanks.
Couple of things here. First of all, don't be concerned if there's a hummer still around. Some of these guys, they don't all go on the same date. They head south. It's staggered, so you may have some, especially in the warmer climates, Virginia and on down, you may see one in early November still moving south. And it could be a juvenile that got a late start. We don't know until we let you capture it and examine it, but you will see these birds. It could also be that it's not one of the ruby throats in the east heading down for migration. It may be one of the western birds that we were talking about, not an anna's, but one of the rufous probably, or a black chin from the west, who has started its migration and is migrating to the east and southeast to spend the winter. So much for freezing in the cold. They do this. We document a lot of them every year, especially down in Georgia and Alabama. And so it could be either one of those. If you positively identify it as ruby throat, it's just running late. It's possible that there's something wrong with it, that it can't move south, in which case you've got a feeder for it, that's fine. Now, we get the question every now and then about feeding hummingbirds protein. And it's possible the hummingbirds that are licensed to be held in captivity at zoos and displays are fed protein products because sugar water will not sustain their life. It's just their Snickers bar. So they have to have protein, and they get that from eating flies and spiders. A lot of flies and spiders, mostly spiders. And without that source, they need some protein. But for an individual to try that, it's more trouble than it's worth and probably not effective. You can't mix up protein and put it out there for a few days. It's something you mix up, you serve it for a meal, you clean out the thing, you sanitize everything, and do it again. So you don't want to try to do that. It's possible it's too much trouble, and they probably don't need it. Give them the good, clean sugar water, and if it's really cold outside, just put a light bulb, a shop light, out shining close to the feeder, so when they cut, the feeder will stay unfrozen, and the bird can get some warmth while it's feeding. Another little trick is in the wintertime, if it's really cold and well down below freezing, you worry about the hummingbird feeder freezing, don't worry till around 25 degrees, it'll get a little slushy. If you want to keep it, if it's going to be colder than that, mix it 3-to-1 as opposed to 4-to-1. That'll drop the freezing temperature of that solution down even further. You get down closer to 20 degrees before it even starts getting slushy. And then when it gets warmer weather, go back to the standard 4 parts water, 1 part sugar. But you increase the sugar to keep the water from freezing at lower temperatures.
Yeah, thank you. You are an expert, aren't you? So now we have another question, and this one says, this happened within the past couple of weeks. Decided to leave my eastern bluebird house up during the winter this year. Checked inside of it about 2 weeks ago. Nothing was there. Bluebirds have been hanging around. Surely they aren't planning to nest. And you know, I had this question on a previous one because our bluebirds kept going in, mom and dad looking at the nest. And I'm like, are they really going to nest this late?
They may. Unlikely. Very unlikely. They're not that terribly smart. They know by the length of sunlight in the daytime, it's time to start the breeding season. They go in there and they start nest preparations. They start the territorial preparations. And then they build a nest, lay the eggs, mate, lay the eggs, and raise young. Bluebirds is a good example. They'll do this 2-3 times a year, and there's been a record, I think, 1 or 2 documented of 4 broods in a year. Start really early, get them out quickly, and have a brood late. So could they have been starting a brood really late? Perhaps. It could just be going through the behavior because of what I call false spring. You get the same amount of daylight and darkness as early spring. That occurs also in the fall, 2 times a year. So they're keying on how much daylight there is, and they just start thinking it's that time of year. Doesn't last long. I always listen for, and we've just passed it here. It's about now. It should be over with about now. The mockingbird started singing like 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And it's like they think it's starting the breeding season. They just crank up and start singing. And then it goes away. I've never seen them get that serious. I've never seen mating this late in the year. Not that it couldn't happen, but that's what's going on.
You'll never say never, huh?
That's right. Not with birds, yeah. They don't read the instruction manuals. They just do what they're going to do.
So now we have another comment from John Beatty. He says, I've checked into this. He's talking about the bluebirds, as I have seen about 10 bluebirds hanging around and going into our nesting box. When it gets colder, they will cluster in the houses together to keep warm. So definitely keep them up all winter. So that's his advice. What are your thoughts on that?
Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. Now, I couldn't have said it better. These guys, when you see them in the wintertime, there's family groups and all. Some of these birds that you're seeing in the wintertime are close to winter, late fall, that are ganging up on these boxes. Maybe migrants from further north that are moving south, new to their territory. They're checking out the locations for possibly nesting. It's what they do, but really for spending the night. They will go into nest boxes, and other birds will do this also, on a winter night to stay warm. They're not living in the house, except when it's really cold. Bluebirds have been known to just pile in 5 or 6 deep, maybe all the way up to the hole, to stay warm in a nest box. So keep your boxes out all year long.
Yeah.
I always put after I clean them out, I put just a little straw in the bottom, some kind of old grass or something. It doesn't matter too much what it is, as long as it doesn't tangle their feet, nothing with string, no material, something, just little grass and stuff to keep them off the bottom. And it's a cozy place for them to spend cold winter nights.
Yeah, I used to think until I started all this birding and interviewing you and that kind of thing, I thought that birds built a nest and stayed in a nest, like this sweet little place all the time. But they just do it for raising the babies.
And a lot of them will not go back into a nest in the wintertime. Some of them will go into the cavities and on cold nights, and they all don't do that.
Yeah.
And here again, a reminder, if you haven't cleaned out your nesting boxes by now from the season, for the chickadees, titmice, and the birds, the bluebirds, of course, go ahead and get that box cleaned out, because there's parasites and things that will overwinter in there. They're in there. Just clean out the box. Maybe if you want to put a little straw back in there, just put a little in the bottom. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Make sure the box is clean for them when they pile in there in the wintertime, if you're lucky enough to see that.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. You always know just what to tell us all. And I noticed, this is so cute. I'll go out on my deck at night, and there's just like a little space between like the wood and the roof, and you'll see little birds sleeping by themselves, just one bird all cuddled in there sleeping. It's so cute. So they do it, I guess, to stay in a place that's sort of protected. Do you see them around your house like that too?
And you don't see them very often because you just don't look. You don't think about it.
Right.
You get out in the night and go around with a flashlight and look at little nooks and crannies. You'd be surprised what may be tucked up in there.
I know,
and
it's
I've
so
always
cute.
been fascinated by all the birds that are around in the daytime. Where are they at night?
I know, me too.
Where did the birds go? And they're out there. They're in the trees. They're in the bushes. They're in the little nooks and crannies around your house, especially wrens and things.
Yes, that's what I see.
And
wrens.
cavity nesting type birds, but they're around. It's just hard to see them. They're still and they're quiet, and the predators don't see them either. Probably one of the reasons they do that.
I know, and they don't mind. We walk outside and we turn on the lights and bring the dogs out, and we're loud and the lights come on, but they just stay very still and stay there.
That's a
Which is
preservation
smart.
technique, because if they move, make noise, they're gone.
Yeah, and that way, they're less likely to be seen. So we want to talk about also some holiday gift ideas from Kohl's, and just for, gifts that you can get for birders. So I think all of us, think about that we love birding, that you can't give somebody too much bird seed.
No,
Awesome.
no. The more the better.
Yeah.
And,
Let's talk about first-time birders, or people you want to get into the birding thing, and you guys have a new product that's perfect for that.
We do. I'll show the new product in the packaging. It's a tray, and I'll show it on a feeder. Nice packaging.
Yeah.
Looks great for Christmas under a tree with a bow.
Yeah,
on
it does.
Perfect.
That would be perfect.
Here's one of our feeders.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you want to hold it up a little bit
And
so
I'll
you
bring
can
it up.
see? Yeah,
And
so you can see this nice tray at
And
the
there's
bottom.
the tray.
Yeah.
This is the new Titan tray. It's
Yeah.
a brand new product for us. Just now heading out to the stores.
Yeah.
Just in time for Christmas. And
A lot of great things about this.
one of the things is when the birds get in here and start feeding, they're going to drop a little bit. It's in the tray.
Yeah,
There's
it's
plenty
not
of
in
room
your
for the
yard.
birds to sit around in this tray so that they'll eat around here at the bottom perch, plus all the feed that falls out, the birds can get it. And anything that gets knocked out, and the shells and things, land in the tray, not on your deck so much, not on the grass down below, stay in the tray.
So less mess and more birds to
And more
see.
birds.
And
A
more,
lot
more
of birds sitting in
birds
the
to
tray.
enjoy. Yeah.
And one good thing, if you're familiar with a Kohl's feeder, you know that it's easy clean. It's very easy to clean this feeder. You just open the top, shot straight through. But, and here's what I like about this.
So easy.
And
It's
not
the
only can you
best.
clean the feeder really nicely.
Yep. And you can clean this so
can-
easy.
Yeah, you just lay this down, you go scrape this out if it's got
Yep.
wet seed or anything in it, and it makes it so easy to clean, so easy
I love
to
that
maintain.
you guys came up with that. And you can tell your birders, you know? Nobody likes to clean a bird feeder, and nobody likes it for it to be difficult. I clean mine in the dishwasher. I just
Hey, that's
put it
perfectly
in there.
okay.
Yeah.
This plastic will handle the dishwasher.
Yep.
It's made to do that, and it beats scrubbing sometimes. And
Absolutely.
you always want a clean feeder for the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a great gift. I don't know of anybody who could get something better if they're just starting to feed birds, or if they're an experienced birder and they have several feeders.
Right.
They always want a new feeder. And
Yeah.
especially one that's like this. It's
And
really
it's
good, easy to
new,
clean.
and it's an innovative product. It's probably something that, you know, people haven't seen before.
Yes.
So they're going to love it. It's a great holiday gift.
Actually, it's a really good-looking feeder, too.
Yeah, it is.
And everybody would love to have one
Very
like this. I'm
sturdy
gonna-
and strong.
Now, what are you going to put in the feeder?
Exactly.
You want to give somebody a nice gift?
Oops.
Oh, there we go.
I know it's heavy. These are heavy. There's lots of
And
stuff
this
in
is
there.
just an idea. Here's a couple of bags. It's those famous hot meats, which squirrels don't like the taste of this stuff. It's a little hot for them. So you can put this in a feeder and the squirrels pretty much leave it
Mm-hmm.
alone. Here's one of our nice blends. And birds love this.
Yeah.
If-
They go through this so quickly. Yeah.
And
They
that's-
love it.
That's what you want. If they're going through it quickly, it means there's a lot of birds, and that's what you
Yeah.
want. If you're giving something like one of the feeders to someone new, just getting started, give them the Coles bird seed also.
Yeah.
You want them to have, you don't want them to put a feeder out there and it just sits there.
Right.
With the grocery store type mix in it, they'll have very little activity and it's not that
And
exciting.
then they'll just get discouraged.
That's right.
But if you put coals in, and even with coals, you have to know birds are cautious.
Yeah.
They may even wait a couple of weeks, but once they get started
Yeah.
on the coals, they never stop.
No, they'll come back often.
Right.
And of course, also here's some suet products. If you're familiar with suet, you know exactly what this does. If you're not familiar with suet, it's really a fat-based product mixed with like a cornmeal. And birds like that because it's an insect substitute. The
Yep.
fats, the suet provides the oils and the calories that they really, really like in the wintertime and need in the wintertime. And of course, they'll eat this all year long.
Yeah, that's a great food
Makes
to
a nice
have
add-on. You
out
put
in
this
the
in a little
winter.
cage or something out
Yeah.
by your feeder.
Yeah. And then do you want to talk about this this suet? The special feeder suet?
Yeah. The special feeder suet is
Is
very much
everything in
like
here, right?
the hot meat suet.
Yeah.
And it's just like the special feeder bird seed.
Right.
And it's got the fats in there, and it's got a lot of sunflower meats mixed in, which are really like filet mignon for wild birds. So it's a great suet product, and the birds actually love this stuff.
Yeah.
I've been feeding suet since it was invented, I think. And I always have it out there.
Did you make your own when you started?
I've done that.
Yeah,
And let me
I bet
tell
you have.
This is so much easier than making your own. When you start cooking down fat, I think the first time I made suet, I rendered the fat down, and it took about a week to get that smell out of the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, so you don't want to
Wow.
do that. Just buy the package. It's much nicer. And this is good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's from Coles.
And it's so great in the winter because in the summer when you put the suet out, it can get kind of melty.
And-
That is just going to stay, and they need it. They need the fat. They need all those nutrients. They don't have the bugs.
And several of the Coles, we'll show this one again, talking about in the summertime, this has a lot more cornmeal in it, so it doesn't get very runny. It'll get soft in the summertime,
Yeah.
but it will not get runny.
Yeah.
And so if it gets really hot where you are, and you find out some of the others that have less cornmeal in it, will get a little drippy or runny or too soft, you just switch over to one with more cornmeal. And we have several varieties. You can see which ones
okay.
are better in the really hot areas. Other than that, they're good year round.
Yeah, so these make a great gift. Are there any other things that you would suggest as far as, well, you can leave it there if you
Oh, I'll
want,
sit
but you
it right
don't
over
have
here.
to. Okay. I want to encourage you to ask your questions while you have Richard, and he is the birding expert, began watching birds and feeding birds, and actually started Coles out of his own desire to make the best possible bird seed to attract more birds. Yeah, so he's your resident expert right here. So be sure to ask your question or maybe just comment to tell us where you're watching from. But are there any other gift suggestions you might have for people who are birders or
Well,
bird
if you
lovers?
know somebody who is into feeding the wild birds, almost anything in the birding area is good. Like I said, you just can't go wrong with good bird seed and a new feeder. There's a lot of little odds in products, but you don't know whether they want that little quirky little thing or this little. But a good basic feeder, here I'll show you again. A good basic feeder with a tray, you can't beat that. I don't think anybody has enough of those. And
Yeah.
if they have some, I'll guarantee you 2 or 3 of them need to be thrown away because they've had it. And replace it with a
Yes.
nice new. That's
Yes.
always a great gift. And you pair that with a couple bags of seed, and you're going to have somebody that's really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a couple of other things that I just wanted to mention. If you do, if you do ever want some resources for where to get Cole's food, you can always go to the Cole's website at coleswildbird.com. You can look up the retailers. You can find out where the Cole's products are being sold and get them really easily. So what else do we need to know this time of year? We're getting into, I think we skipped fall and went straight to the winter, at least, in Georgia. But what kind of things should we know right now about the birds?
Well, there's a couple of things going on, and we were discussing some earlier. But one of the things is the types of birds you're seeing is going to shift a little bit depending on where you are. A lot of the birds that were here in the summertime, some of those guys have moved out, all the warblers and things that don't necessarily come through your feeders a lot, but the ones you see around, they've moved down to Central America or on the process of moving down there. And some other birds that may not be here in the summertime have moved down from further north into your territories further south. And it's just be aware of the change. And not only there's some different types of birds coming into your area, but your regular birds are changing their plumage. Have already changed it. Goldfinches is a great example. The bright yellow male goldfinches and the lesser goldfinches in the far west. And they're bright and they're pretty. And the females tone down. This time of year, the males have lost all that. Breeding season's over. They don't need the bright feathers. They all look alike now. So the males and females look very similar. And you'll see this in a lot of other birds. And some birds like mockingbirds, blue jays, they don't change at all. They shed their feathers once a year, but they keep the same pattern. So you can't tell male from female, and no seasonal difference either.
What about the cardinals?
Cardinals, the biggest thing I like about cardinals is the young ones when they come out, they resemble a female, but their bills are dark. They don't have the color in the bill. So if you see a month or so ago when the breeding season was going on and a lot of babies were out, you could see these ones that looked like females, but their bill was still dark, and it hadn't turned light color. So you say, well, that's immature. You don't know whether it's a male or female at the time. You just know it's an immature. And of course, the females are more drab. The males are bright red. And the young ones will make that change as they go into the fall, get their first molt feathers, and they'll get the brighter colors if they're male, or at least their bill color will change to the more yellowish bill.
Yeah, I always like to see those pictures of the cardinals molting. It's always funny to get those, and if any of you guys have them, we would love to see them at Cole's, and you could just message through the Facebook page and send us your pictures. And that's true anytime. If you have great pictures, and speaking of pictures, the Cole's Wild Bird calendar is out. And so I think you can order it on Amazon, and
Amazon
you can
has
pick
it,
it up
yes.
at some of the different retailers as well, right?
Yes, and a lot of the stores that carry the Cole's Bird Seed can also carry the calendars, but it is available online. And boy, we have to thank all the people who send in all these great pictures. I'm very proud of the calendar because I look at it and these pictures are really great, and it's taken by people like you, our customers out there who just love their birds. And this is our 3rd or 4th year for the calendar, and it's a hit, and it's just a really, really nice calendar.
And I especially love an actual real calendar that you can put up on the wall, because we have all these online calendars now, but I love to have what is right in front of me, and it's a beautiful way to see the seasons.
Yes, and there's a lot of notes and a lot of information on the calendar too, and such pretty pictures.
Yeah, that's right. That is one thing we need to mention. Richard has little advice and insights and all kinds of things with that calendar. So you always see his hints around each, time of year and that kind of thing to kind of guide you with what you need to be doing or things that you could know about the wild birds. So we're only about 5 minutes out. Anything you want to talk about with the birds?
Well, this time of year, we'll go over it one more time. It's always time to get the birdhouses cleaned out, get them prepped for roosting. So you'll have it's ready to go the next year or two. If you forget, you're already ahead of the game. And make sure you take care of your birds this time of year. You're going to see less birds at your feeder, especially in the southern states. Don't be alarmed. Fall, slow down is what I call it. And it's just a matter of there's so many natural foods available this time of year. Everything, as we get into the cooler weather, all the berries are ripe, all the seeds are ripe. It's harvest time. So they're out there hitting the natural foods. They'll come back. They don't leave entirely. You just won't see as much activity at your feeders, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just be prepared for that. Don't worry about it. They'll show back up again.
Yeah.
And keep your feeders clean. Keep them full of coals. Nest boxes clean.
And it's a good time to do it because A, we're doing a lot of home improvement anyway, and B, when it gets really, really cold, you don't want to go out there.
That's right.
You'll find
That's
yourself
right.
saying, they're fine.
And speaking too cold to go out there, and what the birds like, make sure they have water.
Oh, yeah.
If people put a bird bath out and they put it way out in the yard and they put a little water in it, and it either dries up or it gets dirty and it's out across the yard. It's too much trouble to take your hose out across the yard. Keep your bird baths close to where your hose is, and so it's easy for the birds. Don't worry about making a statement out in your yard. That's for a fountain or something. Have a bird bath close to where your hose is, and just go by every now and then, at least every other day, and just take your hose, turn it on, spray the thing out, add fresh water, sit it down. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, you got to make it easy or you won't do it.
And then
You're
the
right.
birds will find it. They'll love it. And
Yeah.
they like bathing in the wintertime.
Really?
We don't so much. But you'll find those birds bathing a lot in the wintertime. You say, oh my goodness, that water's cold. It didn't bother them. And there's a purpose for them bathing. It's not because it's Friday night and they got a date. It's because they need to keep those feathers clean. And they have parasites. They need to wash those parasites away.
Wow.
So you want to get rid of the feather lice and mites on the birds. That's what one of the bathing things help with. And besides, it keeps the feathers clean. Clean feathers lay right, keep the bird insulated and warm. And the down underneath stays warm. If they get matted down and dirty, they're not, don't have the insulation ability of a clean feather.
That's such a great thing to know, yeah.
So there
Because
is a
I
reason
think
to
of
bathe.
they're more thirsty and they need to bathe more in the summer, but yeah, not true
They need
at all.
to bathe in the wintertime.
Yeah, so it's really, it was fun when I had the Coles feeder out for my hummingbirds. We'd have the ant moat full of water, and then we'd have birds come by and drink that,
Yes.
and then get it all over their feathers.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
so
It's
cute.
like
I was
little
like,
mini
what a
bathing,
double
yeah.
bonus.
Yes.
The ant moat was being used.
I've always been surprised at how often birds drink water out of the ant moat over a hummingbird feeder. They
Yeah.
just, some reason they really like that.
They'll
So-
say, I'll take it where I can
and
get
that
it.
works. So I keep it
Yeah.
filled with water.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We hope you will join us every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Richard Cole, who can answer all of your birding questions. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Cole. I want to thank each of you for watching, and I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share it.